Oh, okay. What a tease, man. Hey everyone, how's it going? So today we're doing something a little spontaneous. For those of you who are new here, my name is Jacob Williams. I am a professional music producer and composer. And today I finished my workday and was just like, you know what? I want to check out some new music. I've heard a lot about this artist. I believe they've been sort of on the charts for a while. I've seen some of their songs sort of pop up here and there. I haven't had a client recommend them to me, and I also haven't had it used as like a track of reference or a point of reference for any sort of music that I've had to make lately. But I figured we'd just dive right into what appears to be the big song that I'm seeing everywhere, Back to Friends. Let's go ahead and full screen it. But before we jump right into the song and I sort of give my opinions and sort of break down what I think is happening here and what's making it pleasant to our listening experience, I want to give a quick shout out to our patrons that I'm going to pop up over here on the left. Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot, and it's going to go right to this channel and improving the content that you guys are looking at right now. And speaking of that, don't forget to vote in this week's poll for our first Listen Friday of the week. Right now, I think FKA Twigs is in the lead by a little bit. Go ahead and voice your opinion in the community post, and whichever one of those votes doesn't make it to the top will be a Patreon exclusive. So if you're a patron, don't sweat. You'll see both reactions from me. Let's move on to this track. I'm really excited to check this out. I have no idea what it's going to sound like, so I love going in completely blind with no expectations. I love just kind of seeing something for a while and then going, you know what? It's my turn to check it out. It's my turn to dive right in. Let's do it. So far the overall style is giving like the 1975 meets Arctic Monkeys, I think, because I'm hearing a little bit of what sounds like some 80s influence, what sounds like a little bit of like late 70s in some of the instrumentation and some of the chord choices that are being used here. But I'm also hearing some of that rough sort of garage rock aesthetic, garage rock revival. Okay. Ooh, love that coming up right there. What I'm hearing right here is a lot of distortion on the vocal. That can either be done with a saturator, it could be done with a distortion pedal, it could also be done with just in-house sort of stock effects. But this almost is a different form of distortion that we haven't even heard yet on this channel, and I'm going to explain why. So this is not electronically processed, I don't think. If it is, impressive. I think this is emulating a bit of what's called slapback. Slapback is a very iconic sort of sound. It's a very iconic sort of effect. You've heard it in tons of rock music, tons of pop music dating back decades, and it's supposed to replicate the effect of a singer performing in like a tight space, like a very intimate sort of small show kind of setting. It's very common in indie rock. It's very common in indie pop. And I mean, it's just a very common effect. When people say slapback in the music industry, they know what you're talking about. In this case, we have that little quick kind of slapback delay with some distortion and some like bigger, like kind of, sounds like it's running through a guitar amp or like a speaker sort of aesthetic, just to sort of give it that tight, small, like warm vinyl sort of, analog sound. It's a very analog sound. It's not very digital. So far, what I'm liking actually about this song is it has a lot of older sort of aesthetics. It very much sounds like a very old 80s rock, 80s pop, indie kind of sound, because it's very like reserved. It's very held back. I almost want to say more 70s than 80s. I don't want to date it too much because that's where we get into a debate, and I don't want that. But what I'm hearing here is we're hearing a lot of older sort of aesthetics with the music, but the production that's happening here with the swoop leading into the chorus, that big shoop, leading us into the more catchy moment of the song, is a very modern technique. It's used in modern pop, modern rock, EDM. It's used everywhere in all genres pretty much to sort of transition into new parts of song. They didn't really have that sort of capability back in the 70s and older decades that had this sort of warm, intimate sort of sound to the music. And so I think so far that's what's making this song very effective and kind of hit the nostalgia spot, but also it doesn't dip out on quality too much. It doesn't sound too much like trying to emulate an older sound. And I think that's why it's working, because even the top lining is sort of the main melody of a song that's usually sung by the vocal and the chords. That is very modern. It's a very modern sort of pop, catchy melody, but it's over an older aesthetic. So you have the new mixed with the old. It's something that an older generation can relate to as well as a newer generation. I could be completely wrong, but I feel like, okay, so now we're in the second chorus, and that actually transitions so smoothly to the point where it kind of caught me off guard. I didn't realize that we were transitioning that soon into the second hook or the second chorus. We're starting to hear background vocals coming in, and that's a great way to make the listener feel like, hey, this is a bigger chorus. And to my surprise, this song doesn't have a lot of layers. It's actually just very simple. The band that you're seeing perform with the artist, or is this a band? I'm pretty sure this is an artist. So the band that you're seeing with the artist is pretty much the main layers that you're hearing in the song, maybe with just a tiny, tiny bit of stuff in the background. I thought I heard horns, but it could be a distorted guitar. So things are just lightly tucked under them, but you're mostly hearing what you get. What you see is what you get. And I think some people might enjoy that a bit more than songs that have a bunch of layers. Sometimes simple sort of gets the idea across a bit easier for some folks. And I think that's why this song kind of hits on the right notes for some people. So what we just heard right there is the post-chorus of the song, and it's very uniquely done in the sense that it sort of just transitions over almost like this is the real chorus. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like it's acting like a second chorus. It's not too different from the main one, but the chords change, the vocal melody changes. It's got a bit of a different swing to it. I'm also so far a big fan of sort of the minimalism that this artist is representing, at least with this song. I don't know what their other work sounds like, but I'm loving so far just the very straight to the point, hey, I'm trying to make you feel nostalgia, but I'm also trying to just show you just some noisy, sort of warm, sort of sounds like it's coming straight from a vinyl player type of rock. And I can appreciate that. Right there, we had a bit of a couple of chord changes that sounded like a key change. And what that does is it causes just a little bit of dissonance, a little bit of contrast right before we're going into what I'm assuming is the next chorus. Hey everyone, Jake Edits here. So I did notice something just really quick while I was editing this video, and I'm going to punch it in there for you guys to watch. So while I was looking at the waveform and I was listening back to this, they mastered this song in a fashion that's called brick walling. So what that means is you push the levels of your song all the way through the limiter and don't leave any room for dynamics. And what that ends up doing is it ends up squeezing together the mix and sort of compressing it to the point where everything just sounds like it's massively glued together and it's just this big wall of sound. I didn't notice that while I was listening to it, but now that I'm looking at the waveform and listening to it in my editing headphones, I'm definitely noticing it a lot more. What a tease, man. What a tease. Okay, so I need to point this out. We're not done. Well, we're almost done. We still got like 20-ish seconds left, right? But we get all these cool little keyboard layers at the end that give us a bit of like 70s and 80s nostalgia with their glistening sort of qualities to it. I love that they come in right at the end too, because they might have been in the bed. They might have been in the production bed of the song. They might have been tucked away a bit more. But you almost wouldn't notice because the entire approach of this song is what you see is what you get. And I'm going to assume it fades out right here because that would be the ultimate sort of throwback for a style like this. Yeah. I really enjoyed that, and I think the reason why I enjoyed that so much is because it's a little different. I think a lot of music, especially nowadays, and you guys know me after watching some of my other content on here, I love layering. I think layering is one of the best parts of not just music production, but also musicianship and writing songs. Like coming up with so many different parts of a musical composition and having them work together to make this just big wall of sound is part of the reason why I got into doing this stuff once I found out how exciting and how awesome it was. It feels like magic. But sometimes it's great to bring things back to basics. Sometimes it's okay to have a song that only has like 5 layers to it. Why not? That's where it started. Back before we had such a great sort of appreciation for the technology that gives us what we're able to listen to nowadays, we had very primitive materials. We had bands that would perform with singers. Singers would write songs on a piano with a songwriter and they'd go perform it with a band. That's just how it worked. And then when it came to recording albums, like decades and decades and decades ago, bands would record sessions until they've had enough, and whatever was the best session out of that became the song that you heard on the record. So this song sort of brings us back to a sort of time like that where the production bed wasn't so heavily focused on. I will say that I think having such a simple arrangement with just a couple of chord changes feels refreshing. I loved the sort of lonely, isolated aesthetic of having the vocals at the center of the mix and then everything else sort of tucked back. The kick wasn't very punchy, but everything kind of felt like it was in its right place. It was in this nice little sort of like musical, this sort of noisy, but yet warm and comforting sort of like atmosphere. You get what I'm saying? Like, I think that's probably what makes this song work for so many people, and why it's sort of making the moves that it's getting is because you're able to hear the lyrics, you're able to understand the meaning. They're not that complicated. Even as I was listening to it, you guys know me, I'm not a lyricist. I actually suck. I'm horrible at dissecting lyrics or understanding them, especially on a first listen, but I got it. Like, I understood it. And there's a lot to be learned from that sometimes you don't need to write this complicated masterpiece of a song to make something people relate to. And I think that I would definitely be interested in checking out more of this person's music, more of this artist's sort of aesthetic, and getting a bit more into it. But it definitely took me back to bands like the 1975 or Arctic Monkeys or The Strokes. Definitely a lot of sort of garage rock revival in there. And I'd say it's done pretty well. It's not really a style that I would expect to be as popular as it is right now. But we got to give credit where credit's due. Great work on that song. And thank you guys for your time, and thank you for watching. I hope you got a lot from this reaction, and I just felt like doing something spontaneous, just reacting to a single middle of the week type of thing. This Friday, so far in the poll, we're going to be doing FKA Twigs. I don't even know how to pronounce the album, so I'm not going to embarrass myself. But that will be out this Friday, and then the runner-up will be on Patreon. And again, guys, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you next time, and have a great rest of your day.